Too modern for my tastes.
Mr. Chardonnay, he's just a terror. It's making me blush.
Look at these idiots.
This is Wazo X Wazo. I'm talking to you today from my Bangkok pad. Since the last time I made a video, I went up to Rishikesh with Ganpat and then returned to Delhi and flew to Bangkok. So here I am next couple of months out of India and in Bangkok. So I'll be reporting from here. I want to just get into the whole idea of collectors and their relationships and making donations to museums. If you follow me on Facebook, you know that I was recently given an award by the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art for the donation of a print collection that I had made over a course of 10 years. And of course, I donated it to the Stanley Museum, which is still building a new space for itself, but it will be done one of these days. But I'm very happy about the donation. I was surprised and also pleased by the award, but it made me think about this thing that I often talked about when I traveled from place to place in India, showing that collection, about what makes me, how did I become some sort of arbiter about who is going to be coming and selected to be into this collection, and thus who is going to end up in the museum collection in Iowa. It's very strange because I buy with my eye. You know, I have some expertise. I did work in printmaking for a while. I know what makes a good print, what makes a bad print. Try to learn as I go. But I'm not an academic on printmaking. I'm not a Paula Sengupta, who maybe should be the one to have made this collection. But, you know, we're all cut out for different things in life. How does a collector's, I want to use the term voice, become so powerful in the art scene? You know, so you have the academics are lending their expertise, hopefully in looking at art in a very analytical way, without bias, hopefully. You have the galleries who are very commercial, trying to sell the work for the artists. You have the artists who are simply producing and expressing themselves or fitting a political agenda, whatever the case might be. And then there is the collector, and the collectors, sometimes they come with an agenda. I know one collector in Taiwan, I think his name is Patrick Sun. He's been forming a collection of gay-themed art, and that's going to be on display soon here in Bangkok, I think I've heard. There are collectors who are very narrowly focused, like I was on Indian printmaking. That doesn't necessarily make them experts. That makes them people with a passion who also have a means to fulfill their passion. And it puts, at least I felt, it was a little uncomfortable position to suddenly find myself in, which I did not intentionally want to be there, but in this position of, well, if you get into Wazo's collection, that's sort of like a little badge of honor for the printmaker, the young artist, or whatever. I'm happy they're all there. I'm not saying that I'm not. But, you know, what is the selection process? And for me, it was budget. It was a personal relationship to the art, that I saw something there that I thought was meaningful in some way. Sometimes I look at the history of the artist, the history of the work itself. Sometimes I just looked at it aesthetically. I thought it was just beautifully made. I looked at the technique involved. So there were a lot of reasons that compelled me to buy particular work and ignore other work. Some work I just thought was too generic and not that talented or not that meaningful in any way to warrant being collected and added to the collection. Whether it was a young artist or even if it was a quote-unquote historical artist, sometimes the work just didn't appeal to me. So anyway, there's recently a case, if you've been following my Facebook page, where I've showed some beautiful woodcuts by Chandan Bezbarua. Now, Chandan is suddenly getting a lot of attention, and I'm happy for that. Chandan had actually, I think, wanted to be added to my collection a long time ago, back when we showed this collection at the India Habitat Center in New Delhi. I remember Chandan came and sat down next to me for a long, long time. It seemed like almost a half hour. He was really showing me things, talking about his work. He was showing me a lot of lithographs and different things he was doing at the time. This was back in, I think, 2012 point, and I might be wrong, Chandan, but it didn't strike me that Chandan really was speaking that much from his own experience or from the heart. He was kind of running a script as to what a young artist from Northeast India should be concerned about. So there were images of, assault weapons, machine guns, and, there were references obviously to the Naxals and blah, blah, blah. And it was rather predictable. I didn't feel that he had really found his own path, and I ended up not buying anything from Chandan. And as a result, he did not end up in any of the appearances of the collection in India, not at the India Habitat Center, not at the NGMA in Bangalore or the NGMA in Mumbai. He wasn't in my collection. It wasn't until a couple months ago that I actually bought some woodcuts by Chandan Bezbarua. What caused the change? Well, Chandan kept in contact with me for a long time, not pestering me, but every once in a while he would send me something and say, this is what I've been doing. And by every once in a while, I mean like once a year, he wasn't pestering me at all. And then lately, he came up with these woodcuts, and I just thought, God, Chandan, you're really onto something here. This is really strong work. It seemed in the series which he's done of woodcuts, which is called Somewhere in Northeast India. It's a very broad title. You can bring your imagination to it a lot. But I thought that this series of woodcuts had some real potential. The craftsmanship is very, very good. In fact, it was so detailed, I actually asked Chandan if he was laser cutting these possibly, laser cutting the matrix, though Chandan says, no, this is all hand-done work. And they're quite amazing to me. I mean, they're almost photographic in their quality sometimes. It reminds me actually of Haran Das, but Haran Das's work, of course, was much smaller, and Chandan's is more large. But I thought, Chandan, finally you have found your own voice, your own approach. You're doing something unique that I haven't seen before. You're showing me something new, something exciting, something that doesn't seem like it's being just sort of running a script by rote. This is what expected of me because I'm from Northeast India and I'm supposed to be concerned about this and this and that because that's what they expect of me in the art school. It seems more like something now is coming from his heart. Now, that decision that I've made, and I mean, that's only my perspective, it's not necessarily the truth, and Chandan might totally take issue with how I'm interpreting this. But, it's a personal take of my part, a personal decision. But now he's been bought by me. I might be buying some more works of his in the future. At some point, I'll donate these prints also to the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. How does that all happen? And how is it that other artists maybe have failed to catch my attention or whatever? I speak from both sides on these issues. I mean, also because I'm an artist myself, and sometimes I feel like, well, why haven't I caught the eye of particular collectors, or why have they shunned me? Why have they not bought work of mine? I really so much want to be in this collection or that collection, but they're just not picking me up. There's a little unpredictable quality, is what I'm trying to say, to how a collection is formed and how an artist ends up going to a museum. It's something that can be unfair. Obviously, it can be unfair because it's not rigid. But I myself would prefer a system that's rather free in the way it shapes itself than a system that is very rigid, perhaps controlled by committees, blah, 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 blah. Then you get into a whole very bureaucratic approach to everything, which is open to corruption, which is open to just a dullness, a general dullness, art by committee kind of approach that doesn't work either at all. I think most collectors, when they reach that point where they become a serious collector, they start really thinking about the trajectory they want to go on. They think about what they want the collection to say. They start thinking about just what their role is within the larger art world ecosystem. It's like, what is the role of the collector? What role are they fulfilling? They have a certain power, and they have to use that power wisely. And they're open themselves up to criticism because they are exercising power in some way. And I think as artists, we need to be aware of collectors as people. They're people. They're trying to figure it out, just like artists are trying to figure out their own direction, their own pathway through the maze, and can't be too critical of them. You have to let them go. You have to understand, without the collectors, where would we be? We need collectors within the ecosystem. We need them very much. They are a mainstay of the art ecosystem. Without the collectors, you're only reliant on government support, which doesn't really go so far and brings with it a lot of control. So that's what I have to say from Bangkok today. Thank you for listening. Bye.